Debra Winger once farted at Shirleyland on the first day of filming. She called Richard Gere a brick wall. She quit a league of their own the moment Madonna joined the cast. Hollywood called her difficult. She called herself honest. Then in 1995, she disappeared completely. 3 Oscar nominations, millions at the box office, and she just walked away. No goodbye, no explanation. For years, people wondered what really happened. The truth involved a near-death experience at 18, a broken promise in Ireland, and a decision that shocked everyone who knew her. Mary Debra Winger entered the world on May 16, 1955 in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and from the very beginning, her life carried a strange sense of doubleness. Her family came from Jewish roots that stretched back to Austria-Hungary and the Russian Empire. Her father, Robert Jack Winger, worked as a meat packer and adored the actress Deborah Padet so deeply that he named his daughter after her. Years later, Padet would hear about this and smile at the thought, which turned the story into something the Wingers treasured. Her mother, Ruth Felder, helped support the household by managing an office, and together the family shaped a warm but complicated world. As she grew, her grandparents insisted on calling her Mary, while her parents used Deborah, and that small split created 2 identities inside one child. It felt gentle on the outside, yet strange on the inside, almost as if she had begun rehearsing for the transforming roles that would eventually become her life. They lived in Cleveland through her early childhood until the day everything shifted again and they moved west to chase something new. When she was 5, the Wingers packed their lives into a car and headed towards Southern California. The move seemed ordinary at first, but it opened doors for Deborah that no one expected. In classrooms filled with noisy children, she moved quietly ahead, finishing her work with a kind of speed that startled teachers. Her intelligence pushed her music forward so quickly that she finished high school at 15, walking across a graduation stage, while most teenagers her age struggle with homework and hallway friendships. In those years, she discovered something private and powerful. She fell in love with acting not as a hobby, but as a secret world where she felt like her whole self. She kept this love hidden from her family because speaking it out loud felt risky. Perhaps she worried they would not understand, or maybe she feared the dream would shrink once exposed. So she held it close while life continued to move her in unexpected directions. After finishing high school so young, she enrolled at California State University, Northridge, where she chose criminology and sociology. It seemed like a stable path, something she could explain to others without feeling vulnerable. To support herself, she took a part-time job at Six Flags Music Magic Mountain, where she performed in heavy costumes for crowds. That music passed by without noticing the girl inside. The work was tiring and sometimes embarrassing, especially on days when she dressed as one of the park's trolls. Still, she did it because she needed the income and had not yet found the courage to reveal her true dream. Each night, she returned home with a mix of exhaustion and longing, living 2 parallel lives that never touched. She was a practical student in the daylight and the quiet dreamer after sunset, unsure when or how these 2 parts of her would ever come together. Then came her trip to Israel, a journey she took in her late teens that later gathered myths around it like dust. For years, she told stories about volunteering on a kibbutz and even training with music the Israel Defense Forces, tales that made her sound adventurous and bold. These stories fit the dramatic edges of music, her personality, and people accepted them because they wanted to believe them. But in 2008, she reached a point of honesty and admitted music that the truth was far simpler. She had gone on a standard youth tour that paused briefly at a kibbutz, nothing more. No military training, no extended volunteer work, no intense challenges. She corrected the story with maturity that showed how much she had grown. Even if the truth lacked the excitement of the legend, everything changed. One ordinary day at Magic Mountain when she was 17, she was working the Christmas season show, dressed in a troll costume. that management reminded her was expensive and must be protected. She sat on the back of a small truck. When she noticed the costume slipping off the edge, without thinking, she reached out to save it. At the same moment, the driver swerved and she was thrown hard onto the asphalt. The world went silent. The impact caused a cerebral hemorrhage, bleeding deep in her brain. When she woke up in a hospital bed, she learned she was blind and partially paralyzed. Doctors told her she would never see again, and the words settled over her like a long night with no sunrise. She remained in darkness for 10 months. Day after day passed without light, and even the shape of her own hands felt like a memory slipping away. She could not walk without help, could not perform simple tasks, and could not escape the fear that this darkness might last forever. Visitors tried to comfort her, but no one could reach the quiet space where she wrestled with her thoughts. In those long hours, she began to understand something deeper. She thought about life, purpose, and the things she never dared to chase. She thought about acting and how she had hidden it from everyone. Somewhere in that long silence, she made a vow that felt like a lifeline. If she ever recovered her sight and movement, she would leave behind her practical studies and pursue acting with her whole spirit. That promise, music, held her together when her body felt broken. Slowly and possibly, her sight began to return. Little bits of music, vision came back like shy visitors. She began moving her limbs again through painful therapy sessions. Doctors called it a miracle. She called it a second chance. And the moment she could walk and see, she left criminology behind and stepped straight into acting. Classes. She followed the vow she had whispered in the dark and refused to look back. From that point forward, she lived with a fire that came from surviving what many music never do. It shaped how she moved through the world, how she worked, and how she chose her roles. It also shaped her fearlessness. Whenever she faced a hard decision, she remembered that she had already stared death in the face at 17. That fearlessness appeared clearly on New Year's Eve in 1973, when she was only 18. A simple fall from a moving truck nearly ended everything. The cerebral hemorrhage was so severe that doctors warned music. Her family, she might not survive the night. And when she finally woke, blind and partially paralyzed, the nightmare only deepened. She could not see her loved ones gathered around her. She could not move freely. Every part of her life had been stripped away in a single moment. Yet within that darkness, she found the vow that carried her forward. Those 10 months became a long journey through fear, pain, and the slow rebuilding of her body and identity. When she stood again and walked with her own strength, she understood that life would never look the same. She had faced the worst and held on. She stepped out of the hospital with a sense of clarity that most people spend a lifetime searching for. The dream she once had became the center of her life, and the experience stayed with her forever. It helped her walk away from Hollywood at the peak of her fame in 1995 when she was 40. Others saw it as career suicide, but she saw it as honesty. She refused roles that did not challenge her because she had learned at 18 that life was too short music to waste on things that did not matter. Her first real step into professional acting came in 1976 when she played Drusilla on the Wonder Woman series. She was 21 and her debut episode aired on November 6, 1976. The character, an Amazon princess and younger sister to Wonder Woman, gave her the chance to step into a world that blended fantasy and heroism with her own fierce energy. The role opened doors and showed Hollywood the depth she carried. Executives even considered a Wonder Girl spinoff for her, though it never moved forward. Rumors swirled that she did not want to be tied to a superhero image or that she worried about being locked into TV roles. But the truth remained blurry. What mattered was that she walked away from the project with a stronger sense of what she wanted. Her true breakthrough came in 1980 when she played an urban cowboy. The film arrived on June 6, 1980, and her performance alongside music John Travolta reshaped her career. She fought for the role and won it over Michelle Pfeiffer, delivering a performance that critics and audiences embraced. Instantly, her intensity created sparks on music, screen, and the chemistry between her and Travolta became a defining part of the film's appeal. Their different acting, music, styles clash at times, creating tension on set, but that tension gave the story life, became a character people remembered. She was tough, vulnerable, passionate, and real. The mechanical bull scene at Gillies captured her spirit with a physical confidence that felt both rebellious and triumphant. Critics describe her expression as pure satisfaction as she mastered the machine. That moment helped turn her into a new kind of film icon. Yet the set held darker moments, too. In rehearsals and scenes, her intensity pushed boundaries. At one point, Travolta slapped her so hard during a fight scene that one of her front teeth was knocked out. It was painful and shocking, but production continued. Their working relationship blended conflict, attraction, and artistic fire, and after filming wrapped, their affair continued long enough for Travolta to propose, though she turned him down. Director James Bridges also collided with her intensity. When she refused to play a scene she believed was wrong, he shut down the entire set for a day. The cost was enormous, and he was furious at first, but later he discovered she was right. That moment transformed his opinion of her, and he defended her fiercely afterward, recognizing that her challenges came from artistic instinct, not ego. Then came the role that changed everything. On August 13, 1982, An Officer and a Gentleman reached theaters and reshaped her career. Made on a budget of only $6 to $7 million, it earned $129.80, $8 million domestically, and became the third highest grossing film of 1982. Winger earned her first Oscar nomination for her performance, but behind the scenes, things were far more strained. She and Richard Gere barely spoke. She later said working with him felt like acting with a brick wall, a comment that stayed with her for decades. Even though audiences saw romance, the set was filled music with distance, misunderstandings, and private frustrations. In later interviews, she admitted she struggled with insecurity during filming and often lashed out others. She even said she never loved the film, not then and not now, and she spoke openly about the toxic behavior of producer Don Simpson, who once brought her water pills and told her she looked bloated. Those experiences shaped her view of Hollywood and deepened the inner fire that had begun long before. Her career exploded afterward. The film's success earned her power, fame, and another Oscar nomination the very next year for Terms of Endearment. Yet the same fearless honesty that made her roles powerful also made studios wary. They called her difficult. They misunderstood her intensity, music, as arrogance. But she knew what she was doing. She had faced death at 18 and survived. In 1983, Debra Winger stepped into the role of Emma Horton in a film that was supposed to be simple on the surface, but carried a weight that could crush a lesser actor. Terms of Endearment opened in only 260 theaters, and no one expected it music to find such a huge audience. Yet, it kept pulling people in until it reached a staggering domestic total of $18,400,000. Her performance as a young mother fighting music. Cancer felt so real that audiences sat stunned as the credits rolled. It earned her an Academy Award nomination at the 56th Oscars on April 9th, 1984 inside the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and she even won the National Society of Film Critics Award. The film collected 11 Oscar nominations and dominated the ceremony. For Winger, it felt like a moment where everything aligned, yet everything around her was already beginning to crack. The trouble started the very first day she worked with Shirley Mlan. They were supposed to begin shooting a scene together, and Winger told Mlan to stand on her mark. She called her mom since that was her character. Mlan reminded her calmly that she understood her marks. That simple exchange opened a door they would never close again. As soon as the tension slipped in, it spread across the set. Director James L. Brooks later said, "The energy felt like watching parents fight in front of their children." Then, the moment that became Hollywood folklore arrived. Right after Mlan's cool reply, Winger walked away, lifted her skirt, looked back, bent slightly, and released a fart directly at Mlan. It was intentional. It was bold. And it was the opening shot of a feud that would follow them for decades. People on set watched it happen in disbelief, and the chaos only grew from there. Winger kept pushing. She blasted loud music during rehearsals, leading the crew to stop and restart scenes again and again. She had sudden outbursts that seemed designed to keep Mlan unsettled. Each day came with a new disruption, and Mlan later described the environment as exhausting. Still, when the camera turned on, Winger delivered performances that broke hearts. She told the New York Times let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates just like this.